right. Hey, guys, this is Arnie Fonseca with Health, Love, and Life. And in my world, there's a little life going on because I've had a kind of a I had a power outage, but it wasn't like a storm or anything. It was actually people outside messing with the wires. So, trying to figure out what's going to happen to my computer. Hopefully, it'll come back to life. But I guess that's part of life, dealing with stuff like that. And I am currently running a test to see if it's going to work, and keep my fingers crossed. And we'll see what happens from there. But I appreciate everybody being here. It's been a couple weeks, so let's kind of reconnect a little bit. Right now, actually, we're redoing a lot of things in my world, websites and everything. So the best place to find me is Coach Arnie F on Instagram, Arnie Fonseca Jr., or Coach Arnie, or I should say, and Coach Arnie on Facebook. I'm on Twitter, Real Coach Arnie. I'm on LinkedIn. I love LinkedIn, which is just look me up, Arnie Fonseca Jr. I'm on Pinterest and all that stuff too. But what you can also do is just Google me. Just Google Arnie Fonseca Jr. and you're going to come up with pages and pages of stuff. Hopefully most of it's good. I go in there once in a while and check on that. Do you guys do that? I'm asking you a question. Do you guys go on there and Google your stuff every once in a while, make sure there isn't any goofy things, or just kind of see what's going on? Are you making an impact? If you're trying to, some people aren't. Especially in my generation, they're really not. They're trying to hide a little bit. So I always find it funny when people say, "Hey, we couldn't get a hold of you. Couldn't find you." I was like, "Really? Do you have a computer?" And I just tease them because I know they didn't try, and God bless them, but they didn't try. I mean, because if you have a computer, whether it's the one in your pocket or the one at home, or go to the library, type in my name, and I'll come up all over the place. So, and that's okay. But that's what we used to say 35 years ago. Hey, man, I couldn't get a hold of you. Because that's when we only had one phone. And if you're out driving, you couldn't get a hold of somebody. Or even at work sometimes because you couldn't use the office phone. You had to wait till you got home, or you had to wait till you got to a payphone. I remember when I was doing a lot of home stuff, where I'd visit people in their homes, I would literally get my beeper out. How's this for a little past stuff? And if a number popped up, or numbers, I would literally pop over to a payphone with my quarters and start making phone calls, work things out from a payphone. Because when you did carry a cell phone around, in about 25 years ago or so, because I wasn't one of those lucky guys that could carry my backpack phone around, or my briefcase phone around, or my car phone around. It was expensive, those things. Even as the first cell phone, you might get 60 minutes in a month. How's that? Most of you are on constantly 60 minutes all day long, every hour. So, yeah, so that's how you can get a hold of me. And anytime you want, send me a message and check me out. I'm awesome on YouTube. I had somebody find me on YouTube yesterday asking me some questions about her son, her 44-year-old son. So hopefully I'll be able to help her out. They've gone through some crazy stuff in their life. So, but we're going to talk about pain tonight. Actually, I'm going to bring on a guest here in the next few weeks. I thought it was going to be next week, or who knows? But it's funny how people want to be a guest, and then all of a sudden they're giving you all the rules. Oh, can you change it? Oh, can you do this? Oh, maybe not. But I want to bring her on, and we're going to talk about grief, because we talked about grief a ways back, and that's one of the reasons I want to talk about pain, not just from the standpoint of how we can utilize pain physically in our life to be a motivator, but just in general. Because normally we're motivated by two things. We're inspired by two things in life. One is pain, the other is pleasure. Now, you would think that most of us would be actively seeking pleasure as a way to inspire us to do more. The problem is we don't. We all wait for some crazy stuff to happen in our lives before we take action. And for whatever reason, human nature, but we wait till pain drives us. And that's too bad. But we do. We do. And so tonight we're going to talk about pain. We're going to talk about how it works. And I'm going to give you some real life scenarios, some anecdotal stories. And some of you may be able to relate to it and some may not, but that's okay. And then we're going to relate it to relationships, business, whatever, because we're going to talk about health, love, and life. So let's look at the physical side of it first. In that, when I do ultra adventures. I start off, just doing endurance races, and but I didn't really understand what I call the 4 levels of pain, or the 4 levels of the process of moving from physical failure to ultimate success. And because you did have to go through 4 levels to get there. And so let's just go through that. So if I'm in an ultra event, and I first discovered this when I ran 50 miles in the desert at night. It was a night run. It was actually 2013, so 6 years ago, almost to the day. It's true. I think it was 6 years ago exactly this weekend. And I thought, I got this thing. It's only a little more than a marathon. Really? So, and it was warm, and I just didn't have any clue what I was doing. And I just took off running, doing my thing, feeling pretty good. And all of a sudden, I get to mile 22, and things just didn't feel right. Only 22 miles. But things didn't feel right. And I remember I had stopped to go to the bathroom, and I turned around, and there was a gentleman there, and we were just talking for a minute. And I thought, well, I'll just hang out with you guys. Okay. I could barely keep up with these guys. I was thinking, man, I'm done. Physically, I'm done. And then it became kind of a mental thing, because I was embarrassed. I'm thinking, I signed up for this thing, and I'm already physically done at 22 miles. I was done. And I could barely keep up with these guys. And they weren't going very fast. I think they were walking. I don't know. I can't remember. All I know is they were my guardian angels. That's all I know, is because I was, like I said, done. And I hadn't even finished the second lap, because there's 3 laps of this thing. So I did everything in that was possible to keep up with these. There was 3 of them. I think there's 3 of them. I to this day, they're my guardian angels. But I was done physically. And then what happened then is I moved into the mental side of it, which means that I kept telling myself it didn't make any sense what I was doing. Why was I even doing this thing? It was dumb, stupid. Makes no sense. So I went from physical exhaustion, I'm over it, to mentally, this is stupid. It makes no sense. Why am I even doing it? You ever been there? You ever been to that point in your life where you just, whatever you're doing physically, it just makes no sense at all? I mean, your body just, it's just dumb. It's just dumb. And so that was playing in my head while I was trying to keep up with these guys. And then it was an emotional thing because, as a coach and a speaker, and back then I was just kind of getting into it. My business had crashed. I was going through a really hard time. And here I was failing again. I mean, it was horrible. I mean, I just was embarrassed. So I was an emotional wreck. And what happened was when I got through the second lap meant that I had gone almost 32 miles. So I had literally stayed with these guys for 10 miles. And then they were gone. I didn't know I didn't understand. And it just, later, I had realized that obviously they were only doing the 50K, which is almost 32 miles. And so now I was on my own. So I went through the thing, got something to eat, and took off. And I just felt like literally a train hit me. I felt like a train hit me. And I started off, I was walking. And whenever you're in a big race, guys, for those of you that are out there that do races, when you have to walk, it's a death walk. Versus today, I teach individuals walk when you want, run when you want, because then you can walk fast. So when I go out and do like the Grand Canyon or events that I love to do, I walk a lot because I want to, and I'm walking pretty fast. And I practice walking. I'm going out this weekend and practicing walking because I practice it to walk fast. So, but I wasn't walking fast. And I remember people passing me by and just thinking it was horrible. Just horrible. And I remember I got to a point probably 2 or 3 miles up the trail, maybe, and I was like all by myself. It was the middle of the night. It was after midnight. Yeah, so it had to be around maybe 2:00 in the morning. And I thought I was going to die. I thought they're just going to find me out here in the desert tomorrow morning, and that's just what was going to happen. Just, it was over. And I was very emotional, and how I let everybody down, let myself down. And I remember the only thing I did different, I took 2 ibuprofen. I'm not even sure if I was in a lot of pain or not. And mentally I was. But what I did, I took the 2 ibuprofen, and maybe about a mile later, I tried to run a little bit. I tried to move a little faster, and I go, I can. I could go a little better. And then I started to go a little faster. And a little faster. I was just checking my computer. And a little faster. And I remember the course was 15 miles, 16-mile loops, something like that. Because overall it was like almost 48 miles. So like 16 miles. So I got to the top of this lap. So there would be like 8 miles, 7.5, 8 miles to go. Yeah. And I started feeling better. And I remember I grabbed some M&Ms and some electrolytes, got my water, and I asked the guys there, how far do I got to go? They go 7 miles from there, and it's just downhill. And I went, yeah. And all of a sudden, I had what I call the turnaround. So you're exhausted. Mentally, doesn't make any sense. Emotionally, you are a wreck because you've let everybody down, including yourself. And then you have the turnaround. It's all part of the emotional component here. Because at that point, at that point, I had hope. And remember, when you have hope, you can do a lot of things. But the one thing you can't do if you don't have hope is you can't live. They've done surveys with people that, I've heard all different kind of things, but literally, without hope, you'll almost die immediately. When you truly believe there's no hope. And all of a sudden I had hope, which, I use a lot. I actually have a band that I wear on my wrist, that Hands of Hope. And because that's having only positive expectations, hope. Having only positive expectations. And man, I tell you what, I just took off. I took off. And my goal was to break 12 hours for this thing. I never done it before. I didn't know. But earlier in the night, that wasn't even a remote possibility. I just took off. And I remember I was playing Rocky, the theme music from Rocky, because now I don't run with music at all when I do long runs. But I was playing and man, I was literally crying. I was so emotional. Now, remember now, a couple hours earlier on that same lap, I was emotionally crying from sadness. This time I was crying from joy because I was going to make it. Not only was I going to make it, but I was going to make it under my goal. Under my goal. So think of that emotional roller coaster that I was on at that point. And I had never really experienced this before, guys. Because when you're doing, like, I've done triathlons, I've done long marathon, I've done all that stuff. But you're dealing with 3, 4, 5, 6 hours at the most. Literally. This was 12 freaking hours in the desert at night. And now playing Rocky in my ears, running down this, just the perfect grade to run. And I'm just feeling so much joy in my heart for what I was going to do. And I remember I texted my team waiting for me. I think my wife was waiting, my daughter was waiting, a couple daughters, and I don't know who else. But I texted and I said, I'm coming in hot. And then my phone died. It died like 2 miles out, not even, maybe mile and a half. It died. And all I know is I kept getting faster and faster and faster. And I came sprinting in there. And everybody's like, wow, look at you, And because none of them had any idea what I was going through. Nobody. And there was a guy I met for the first time, and actually he became a friend. And he won the race. He won the race. And he was waiting there. He waited there. He had won the race earlier, way earlier. And I was just overcome with joy. And it was like, that's when I became spiritual at that point. So I went from physical exhaustion to a spiritual event in my life. That now I'm able to talk to you, and I've shared this story so many times. But now I learned that a lot of people go through this. Not just athletes, but people in life. If you persevere long enough. If you persevere long enough. You got to stay in the game to give you a chance. And now I've experienced it so many times. I experienced it last Saturday. I was at the Grand Canyon. And I hadn't fully recovered from the week before. And I started at 11 o'clock at night. I went all night long at the Grand Canyon last weekend. Full moon. It was beautiful. But I was tired. I got down to the bottom at Phantom, not across the river. I didn't go to Phantom Ranch, but I went across the river. And I go, I'm tired. So, crap, what am I going to do? So I had a goal, and I started back up, and I started doing some things that I was planning on doing. And I don't know, maybe it was those 2 ibuprofens I took again. But after about 7 hours, I started feeling some energy. And when I finished, 6 hours later, I could have gone more. I was feeling so excited. My body was feeling good. Everything was feeling good. But I gave myself a chance by sticking in the game. I could have stopped 2 or 3 hours earlier, guys. I really could have. I could have just came up from the bottom and saved myself about 4 hours of this. But then I wouldn't be telling the story, would I? I would be like, I didn't do it. I wasn't having a good day. I just stopped. I just quit. So when you stop, when you quit, unless you have a physical injury, you don't give yourself a chance to win. You don't give yourself a chance to finish. And that's what a lot of people do. You just don't give yourself a chance. And you have to persevere. We've all heard stories of perseverance. You got to get to the top of the mountain. Because at least when you get to the top of the mountain or a mountain, you can see better. You can make a better decision. Don't make decisions from the bottom in the canyon. You know, when I was at the bottom and I wasn't feeling good, that's not a good time to make a decision to quit. Because it would be a very expensive time to quit down there. You want to get to higher ground. Mentally and emotionally. You got to get to higher ground so you can make a better decision. So I ended up having a great day, great experience. And now, like I said, I'm telling you guys about it. So again, I went from physical exhaustion. This is dumb. Why am I doing this? You know, kind of silly. I didn't recover, blah, blah, blah. Emotionally, I was embarrassed because I told everybody what I was going to do. But then the spiritual event happened again because like, wow, look what I'm experiencing right now. I feel so good. And I couldn't wait to tell everybody about it, how good I feel. And but that's what happens. So those are just two experiences, one recent, one 6 years ago, almost to the day, that have happened to me, and there's countless others. But you know, now let's take this circle back a little bit here. Let's look at maybe let's look at life a little bit. You know, let's look at relationships. Now, if you're in a relationship that's abusive, that's different. Nobody should be in that. Nobody should endure that. You know, that's not right. But if you're in a relationship and you're exhausted, okay, we've all been there, and it mentally doesn't make any sense, been there too. And emotionally, you're just exhausted. Emotionally, like, you might be embarrassed. You know, it's just not working, and you're embarrassed. You're letting everybody down, your family, your children possibly, and it's just horrible. It's a horrible feeling to be in. But if you stick in there long enough, but yet you got to have a plan. You know, you just can't take 2 ibuprofen in your relationship. But you can get some professional help. You know, I've helped couples do that. I went through it myself. It was very expensive, but worked. It was a lot less expensive than a divorce. Okay? But I was willing to do it. And believe me, I didn't want to because I had tried counseling before and I thought it was stupid. It didn't work. But this time I had listened to somebody. I actually was listening to a radio show. He had been on for months and months and months and months. And I go, man, this guy's pretty good. And I literally remember I was in my office where I'm at right now. And I just called. And I got him on the phone. And we made an appointment. And that was it. So, but it changed my life. Not just because it helped my relationship at the time, obviously, but because I learned about myself, things that I never knew before. Things that I use today when I do work with people. I use some of the same strategies. But I was at a point emotionally where I was just toast. I was done. But I endured long enough to make the phone call. And then I was willing to step into it, do it, keep going, get it, keep my feet moving, for there to become an emotional turnaround, like, wow, this might work. Feeling better. Progress. Listen, when people are in pain, I work with suicide, especially with young people, and one of the biggest things that creates that want to kill yourself is when there's no progress in your life. When you're stuck. It's not going anywhere. Spinning your wheels. Your life sucks. Your relationships suck. Everything sucks. Why be here, right? Now, that's because you have these gaps. Hold my hands right here. Look. See, we have expectations in our life, okay? So here's where we're at. And my upper hand, that's what we wanted. Maybe we want to get married, have a couple kids, have a nice job. And these are expectations. Well, this is where we're at. Our job sucks, marriage or relationship sucks, kids don't like us, dog doesn't like us, right? All these terrible things going on. So you're looking at this gap. See that? See that gap? And you look at that gap, and you don't see any way in the world to close it. And so that leads people a lot, especially today, to not want to be here. Now, if I can help somebody, or they can figure it out, that we can see what's happening there, my hand's coming up, so that we can make progress, that will relieve the pain. Progress relieves the suffering, guys. Promise you. If you can just make some progress. And that, the same as I'm out on a mountain trail, and if I keep my feet moving, all of a sudden I've got 50 miles to go, and then I've got 40 miles to go. That's progress. Now, if I just sit on a rock and 2 hours later I still got 50 miles to go, that's called suffering. So if you keep your feet moving, now here's kind of a trick, because you got two choices here. You can lower your expectations or make progress. So if we lower our expectations, because a lot of times what I'll help people do is change their freaking rules, because you have so many rules that you're never going to make any progress, and you suffer. Or you make progress. You get moving. And all of a sudden you feel like you're making progress. The pain will start to go away. But you got to keep moving. So that's kind of how it works. And then when you continue on that path in that relationship, you might, and many times you'll get to that emotional flip, that emotional turnover, and then it's like, wow, thank you, God. It worked. It's spiritual. It worked. It worked, but you got to stay in the game. You got to give yourself a chance. And that's how it works in a relationship. Not always. And like I said, if there's abuse going on, mental or physical, hey, look, I'm raising my hand. I'm not for that, for anybody. So let's look at your job. Let's say you have a job, and you're working hard, doing your thing, and stuff's happening at work, and you're exhausted. I mean, maybe you've been there for a number of years. You're just not making any progress anymore. You're just spinning your wheels. Your manager is just a jerk, and you just don't feel like you're making a difference. You're not buying into the vision of the company. The culture blows. It's just not good. You're like, why am I here? So now you go from exhausted. You go to mentally like, why am I here? Why am I still in this stupid job? Am I that desperate that I have to stay here for this kind of work? Maybe I should start looking for another job. Maybe you start looking for another job. Okay? Because, or then you get into that whole emotional thing again. I don't want to let down my buddies, my teammates, blah, 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 whatever it might be. That's an emotional situation you're going to have to deal with. But at the same time, if you're a physical and a mental and emotional wreck, you've got to do something to close the gap. Now, closing the gap could mean get a better job or change your rules at the job. Maybe it's talk to the manager, whoever is causing you grief. Maybe it's talk to your the guy next to you or the lady next to you in the cubicle. Like, why are you on my case all the time? Maybe it's talk to your manager and find out what you can do to do a little better. What we don't want to do is what most people do is complain and blame. Blame somebody else. Woe is me, right? Somebody else's fault. No, it's not. It's yours. Okay? Now, again, if you're being, hopefully you're not being physically abused at work, but hey, look, I got news for you. People are, especially if it's sexual harassment. I mean, one of the things I do for another company is do workshops on sexual harassment. And in California, it's actually mandated that any company at a certain level has to go through a workshop on sexual harassment. It's real. And it's just a matter of how we deal with it. Now, am I happy about how things have worked out? No, because I was the kind of guy at my company who would go around and give you a hug. But I trusted myself that I was the kind of guy who was going to give you a hug and give you a squeeze on top of that. Right? But we've ruined it now that we can't even go. We're even afraid of even grabbing somebody's hand and giving them a handshake or a pat on the back because somebody might take it the wrong way. To me, that's terrible. It's terrible. We're human beings. We should be allowed to interact with each other and respect each other. But we can't anymore because everybody's gone crazy. There's so many rules. But I just said a little earlier, change your rules. But there are laws that we don't want to, if you're a business owner, you don't want to get caught up in either, which sometimes creates a culture that maybe is not that stimulating to us. We don't want to be part of it anymore. Everybody's like a robot, and we want to find another place to work. That's okay. That's progress. That's progress. If you go find another place to work, that might be down here, your expectations. I'm going to shift them over. I'm going to go over here. Got a better job. Maybe it's a lateral move, pay-wise, but better people, better culture, something that aligns with your values. If you value honesty and integrity and timeliness and whatever, maybe you don't like the way that people just show up willy-nilly and aren't great teammates as far as projects. I don't know. That's your deal. But can you see how these levels of pain will inspire you to make some changes? Now, notice we haven't even talked about pleasure because, obviously the theme of the show is pain, but think about all the things that we have to do in our lives, that we do in our lives, based on pain. Isn't that crazy? Everything we've just talked about for the last 30 minutes has been on pain. Pain, 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 pain. That's going to inspire us to make changes in our life. Versus if you think about it for a couple minutes, if something really feels good, and I think I've talked to you guys about this before, my 4 life experiences. See, because level 1 experience, it feels good. It's good for you. It's good for others, and it serves a greater good. Level 1. Why the heck are we so gosh darn stubborn that we don't embrace those life experiences? It's right there. We have to wait till it starts to hurt a little bit. And then remember, that's a level 2. Doesn't feel good, but you know it's good for you. And it's good for others, and it serves a greater good. And the key is getting those things to feel good. And it is the key. Because for most of us, it's pain. It's pain. And one of the things that drives me crazy for most people is we all settle for level 3, which is feels good. It's easy. Doesn't ruffle anybody's feathers. Go along to get along. Yeehaw. Guess what? Feels good. Not good for you. Not good for others. And doesn't serve the greater good. So remember that gap? It doesn't do anything for the gap. It just gets you to the next day. The gap is still there. And at some point, this becomes overwhelming because you're not making any progress and you suffer because you weren't willing to push it, to make a change, to make a decision that's hard. Hard choices, easy life. Easy choices, hard life. It's that simple, guys. It's that simple. You know, it seems easy for me to say that, but listen, if I'm working with somebody, yeah, it is because it's not emotional to me. But in my world, it sucks. Those hard choices are hard. Are you kidding me? Come on, I'm in the middle of that right now. It doesn't feel good. But you know what? I have to, one of the beauties of being a coach and being a student of this stuff, I have choices to make. I can either take the easy way out, which is what most people do, or I can be one of the 2%. And I can sit back, evaluate, and make a hard choice. You know, whether it's, I'm not dealing with young children anymore, and I have hopefully inspire them to make hard choices with their children. But in my life, I have to make some really hard choices, and I know that there's a consequence for that, and it could be a tough consequence. But I know on the other side of it, it could be incredibly joyful. But I know this: if I were to make an easy choice, because it feels good at the moment, just to go along, get along, don't want to upset the apple cart, don't want to bother anybody, don't want to bother my manager. I just want him to stop yelling at me. I don't want to bother the person next to me in the cubicle. I just want him to leave me alone. I don't want to bother my boss, the owner of the company. I just want him to keep signing my paycheck. But guess what? At some point, either they're not going to respect you enough because you're not making a difference because you're just kind of hiding. They're going to let you go anyways. Or you can push it and go in there and say, hey, how can I be better? What do I need to do to move up? What do I need to do to make some progress around here and be a better team player or whatever it might be? They might tell you. But guess what? You're also taking a chance. They may say, hey, hit the road, pal. We don't need you around here anymore. But guess what? They just eliminated a lot of pain out of your life. Now you're forced to go get a new job. You wanted to anyways. They just forced you to do it. It's okay. It's okay. But that's the beauty of using pain to motivate versus joy. Because when we all have joy, now the problem is some people, it's almost like they don't think they deserve joy. They don't think they deserve to have a great experience. It's like they're always, I was talking to a client this morning and I said, physically, a lot of times, one of the coaches that I've had in my life, he says, watch out, Arnie, when things are going too well. That's when you want to back off a little bit because you're setting yourself up for an injury because you're trying too much. And I took that advice because I play it in my head all the time. And when I was getting on my last trip down into the canyon, I was doing these different kind of intervals. I said, stop. You're feeling really good. Listen to Dr. Phil. That's one of my coaches. And turn around and go back. And I did. And I'm sitting here telling you about it without any injuries. Get it? Versus if I could have gone another mile or two, might have had an injury, might have tweaked my knee, might have done this, might have done that, but I didn't because I stopped. Okay? People do that in relationships all the time. Things are going along too good. And you know what they do? They start a fight because they want a little excitement. Why do we do that? Job's going along real good. Everybody's getting things done and somebody's got to do something goofy at work. Why? They want some excitement. They want to stir up the pot a little bit, shake it up. I had a great meeting yesterday, and we'll finish with this, with somebody because I'm putting together some programs for schools on suicide prevention and some of the things loneliness, some of the things that young people are going through. And he was a counselor for many years, 40 years, as long as I've been a teacher. And we were talking about programs because we were calling ours the What Next program. What are we going to do next? Because that's how I treat people. It's like somebody can't help you if they can't tell you what they're going to do next. And he said, yeah, it's funny. Every time we were doing things and it was working, and this is kind of government-based stuff, they would come in and shake it up. What the heck is that all about? So guess what? At the end of the day, we're not making any progress. It's almost like there was a great book years ago written, Who Moved My Cheese? Some people just like to come in and just move things up just because, instead of having a plan and a strategy to make progress. Because to me, everything's about progress. Are we making progress? That's how you know. That's how you eliminate pain in your life. That's how you eliminate suffering in your life. And whether you're making progress because of joy in your life or you're making progress because of pain, make progress. And that's what this is all about. And I do want to apologize as I'm wrapping up right now. I don't have my life tip, my relationship tip ready to go tonight, but I'll be ready to go next week on that. But maybe just take what I just said there when it comes to relationships. So we'll call this our relationship tip this week, our love tip. When things are going good, embrace it. Embrace it. Don't cause a fight because things are going good. Why don't you do this? Why don't you go to your partner and say, hey, look, things are going really good. What can we do to keep it going? What can we do to keep it going? But you got to have enough awareness. You got to have enough awareness to go, things are going really good. Let your partner know, hey, things are going really good. How can we keep this thing going? Embrace it. Embrace the joy. Don't always wait for the pain. If you don't have to. All right. So there you go. Those are the 4 levels that we go through to experience success, fulfillment, joy in our lives. But we got to get through them. Most people quit at the first step, the exhaustion step, when you're physically exhausted, whether you're at home, on the track, in the gym, at work. When it gets tiring, we quit. That's 90-some% of us do that. Don't be that person. Stick it out. Figure things out. Give yourself a chance. Stay in the game. I promise you, it will make a difference. Stay in the game. All right, guys, this is Coach Arnie. Well, this is Arnie Fonseca Jr., but you can call me Coach Arnie. And remember, check me out on Instagram, Coach Arnie F, Coach Arnie on Facebook, or Arnie Fonseca Jr. Would love to talk to you. You can call me or text me at 602-390-9144, and I'd love to talk to you anytime. You can share with me some of your thoughts, and maybe I can give you a pointer or two to get you over the hump. But feel free to call me or text me whenever you can. Also, Twitter, Real Coach Arnie, and YouTube, Arnie Fonseca Jr. Would love to talk to you there as well. Hey, guys, thanks again for being here. Thank you, CC, for everything you do, and I appreciate you all, everybody, and I look forward to seeing you again next week.